Hey y'all, it is time for another update for Squarebody Summer Rev5 suspension on the Suburban. And I got a lot of little detailed things done this last week, and before I start tearing into this again, it's a pretty good spot to get you guys kind of updated on progress. This is all in anticipation and prep for some trips that are coming up in the fall, not the least of which is Trail to SEMA. And really all this is a bunch of off-road design gear, the front coilover conversion, and what we'll do next, which is a really long set of leaves for the rear. This last week, got a lot of nice stuff done, not the least of which is the axle is fully located. What that means is the panhard bar is in place. They give you this bracket, and it's a good piece of gear. I wanted to be able to move this bracket forward a little bit, and then also to be able to make sure that the pitman arm was going to clear, so I scalloped out these two. Now that's stuff that just takes time and attention to be able to get right. The other is getting the panhard bar, that tiny little bend in it, because this suspension stuff's so far up that the panhard bar can't be straight, and it's just one of those compromises. So it's a small bend, a little under 10 degrees to make that thing clear this thick crane diff cover. But I'm actually gonna pull all of that stuff off, set it to the side, burn in the links. That's kind of what I got just the next couple of days for, is just doing a bunch of welding. So those links are gonna come off and I'm gonna TIG weld those. Did an upgrade here on my Everlast 210 EXT, which is a fantastic TIG welder, but it was just air cooled up to this point. Got the water cooler for it. Now I'm really ready to run at kind of full duty cycle with a good 20 torch. So I'm gonna get that done. And while the axle is out and I'm gonna slide it backwards and just sort of store it right under the truck for a minute, I've got some overlay plates that I designed and drew up and worked with a friend of mine, Adam Dooling, to be able to put here on the frame. I'll show you what those look like. Now this is just held in place, right? These are just clamped and it's not, exactly where they're gonna be. And there's a few little rounding points I need to fix down here. I need to do a little bit of sanding down in there. This side, because you can see all three plates, the other side, based on having a steering box brace at the front, only has the two additional plates. This is all just to beef up the frame a little bit. The body mount goes right there and will be replaced. So this goes up from the body mount, covers the original leaf spring suspension holes. I will weld those from the back side. All these reinforcement triangles and trussing, that's just, the ability to instead of doing solid plate all the way up and down, to do these reliefs and create kind of like a trussed pattern, like a bridge. This is where the Offroad Design shock hoop will mount, so I left that space open. This is already a really strong part of the frame with this dimple, and you can put more material there if you want it, it's just not necessary. These reinforcements, I cut all these to pretty much miss the factory holes. I'm only gonna fill in these three here. It's not necessary to do this for every coil spring, conversion. I chose to do this because really two things. One, I'm never gonna put a cage in this truck. And if you do run a roll cage, then you fix all your chassis stiffness issues by running a roll cage, right? So knowing that I'm not gonna have that advantage later, this was a way to compensate for that. Two, I'm not gonna box the frame either, at least not for quite a little while. And if I ever do box the frame, this will just be kind of, added enhancement over that. But this gives a lot of outer rigidity and good landing points for the shock hoops, which you need to do a little bit of reinforcement for the shock hoop landings, but it doesn't have to be as elaborate as this. I'm just a fabricator and I like doing stuff like that. Finally, it's not on this side, but on the other, this truck got hit. I was a student at Texas A&M, and there was a young driver who made the corner too fast and it was wet, and her small car slid up under my truck, and at the time it tweaked the frame. And so I have always had this lingering concern, even though the frame is, technically square from the, front and rear points, I've always had this lingering concern that there's a little bit of fatigue in the frame from the damage itself and the repair thereafter. So these frame plates, sort of address that concern for me anyway, to make sure that it's good and it's strong and it's reinforced. And if there was any, sort of any sort of pushing the material past what's called its endurance limit, which is where it actually bends and stays, and it results in a crack, I'm able to sort of reconcile that or repair that through some of these frame plates. Finally, and this is just something that I've thought about, I also wanted to be able to fill in this point. This is where the shackle hanger used to go, and I'm going to weld this from the back side. I didn't want to have this big gaping hole here. The shackle hanger is going to somebody else that's going to use these, and I wanted to be able to plate this whole thing in. This, I feel like, is still, you know, really good and strong on both sides. That's why you have the voids in there. And then these are the holes from a shock mount that I made years and years ago, and I wanted to be able to fill those in.
Okay, if y'all remember at the end of the last episode, we were doing a giveaway with my buddy Chris from Trail to SEMA, and Offroad Design provided us with a little bit of stuff, as well as some of the other supporting businesses, Baja Designs and so on. Before we do that, first let me say thank you very much for not just the participation, but all of the kind words that y'all shared in the comments and your support for this build. I so appreciate it. That means a lot to me, and I'm glad y'all are here to watch progress. Winners. First is Mark, Bent77. Mark, I know exactly where you're going to be at Blazer Bash here in a couple weeks, so I'll bring your box, chock-a-block with stuff, to Moab, and I'll see you there. Also, Alan Powell. And just tell me where you want your flat rate box filled with goodies, and I'll be happy to mail it there, here very shortly. So that's pretty much it for this time. You can find me on Instagram, Willomet Motor and Fab. You'll see I'm deep into the overlay plates already. And, that'll be the focus for our next update here. So, until then, y'all take care.